Thank you. We're going to get started.
I could yell into my phone. Is that better? It's 6 o'clock. Welcome. I'm glad we have a full house this evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock at the Bennington Board of Education. Our meetings are open to the public and subject to the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is located on the south wall. We always start our meetings with public forum, so we are going to start with that this evening. So if you haven't had a chance to fill out one of these sheets, looks like this. It's kind of a gold color. So if you want to talk to us this evening, please fill one out and bring it up to me. And it looks like we only have one this evening. So anybody else? Okay. Please limit your time to 5 minutes, and I will gently wave and let you know when you're getting close to the end of your time. But we will begin this evening with Tracy Baker. I saw her here. In the back. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening. All right. Well, discombobulated. I wasn't going to come, and then my daughter told me to come, so I apologize. I'm not going to stay because part of what I'm talking about is what is on the agenda. But first, I would like to thank the board again just for allowing me to be a part of the community meet and greets for the superintendent candidate. That was just a really great honor to be a part of that process. Second, I would like to thank the board for being able to come to a unanimous decision so quickly for our new superintendent. Seeing the board work together throughout the entire process has just been very encouraging. And I know many of the community members are anxiously awaiting for Dr. Plaza's arrival and are anxious to welcome him and see what great things he's got on board for us and what's on the horizon. Finally, I would like to discuss an item on the agenda under administrative reports. There's an attachment entitled Superintendent Option Enrollment Email to the Board. As you may or may not be aware, this is in regards to an email I sent. While I appreciate the response and the data collected, there are a few items of concern on what we will be discussing this evening. First off is my suggesting, the words that are in the document, that many families have opted out due to lack of bullying. District support due to bullying, I feel, is very equivalent to you suggesting that through informal discussions that are not documented, we have a clear reason as to why students opt out. I can certainly share with you the many text messages, Facebook, Messenger conversations I have had with various parents over the past 2 years, but somehow I don't think that would be fair to them. But I have had these conversations. You state Bennington Public Schools does not track or require parents, families to formally disclose the reason they are opting their students out for the district. Therefore, it is difficult to formally verify a reason. This statement makes me feel the email I sent wasn't even read, because that was the request of the district to start doing that. As I stated in the email, I would like to see an exit or opt-out survey being provided to these families. The wording could definitely be along the lines of, in order to help us do better, let us know why you're leaving the district. You know, much simply like an employee leaving an employer, you would want to know what you could do better in the future to retain students that have left the district. Within the document, the fact that you do not consider children that are pulled to homeschool or instead attend a private school as an opt-out student is concerning, because these are the two options that if a student is being bullied or parents don't care for just things that are going on in the district, that's what they're doing. They're homeschooling or they're going to private school. So to not consider those parents as opting out, I was confused by that. With the continued push by the district to insist to parents that our social emotional learning is such a great benefit to our students, then by all means, let's learn why each and every student is leaving the district. And that includes those that choose to homeschool and attend private school. You cannot fix a problem if you are unaware of the problem. And it seems by your response to my email, you just do not want to be aware, and since we are so survey-centric, to help us utilize, why SEL is so effective, why aren't we using a survey to, again, determine how effective we are in our teaching or in our bullying policies? I guess, again, I was late today because my daughter had an issue with bullying today. And so the fact that I guess I question to all of you, if I had not, or it would not be so involved with the board, would I have been even contacted that this was discussed tonight? Since it was my email, or was this just going to be presented here? And then I was never going to be informed of the discussion that you guys plan to have tonight. So I certainly hope that would be the case, but I don't know. So in the future, if I do send emails and you guys come up with some sort of response, I would like to be included in that directly. And I feel that rather than, the document you are presenting later on this evening, I've got more questions. And rather than presenting something to the school board in response to an email, have some open dialogue, a meeting with all of you along with the superintendent, so that, questions can be answered, because I have more questions, obviously, like I said, based on the document that's going to be presented later. And again, I can't say I've got a kiddo at home who needs me, and that's my main priority. But I guess that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Is there anyone else that would care to speak before the board? Right, okay. We will move to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. This would include the approval of the agenda, the minutes. I know we've had quite a few meetings, so thank you, Jody, for accurately capturing all of those motions and votes. Presentation of the March bills for approval and payment, as well as personnel resignations and hirings. Jerry, I know you had bill review as treasurer. I don't know who was also reviewing bills this month.
Christy and
Oh, Christine, there we go. Okay, great. So I guess we'll have a motion and then we'll discuss.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
There really wasn't anything out of the ordinary. The only thing, there was a fairly large bill to prepare construction. That was about it. It was different.
So is that the final payment then for the,
Yeah, 530,000.
gotcha,
Clarification,
Okay.
it is a big bill, but it's not the final payment.
okay,
There's still some retainage because of the punch list.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
sorry to jump in there, but
No, that's great.
appreciate that. Any other changes to the minutes or questions? All right, let me call the roll.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
yes,
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
All right, I think the next item up is administrative reports. Mrs. O'Connor, that must mean the elementary's up first. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Molly O'Connor, principal at Stratton Elementary. We have two things on our board report tonight. Read Across America Week was a really fun week. We appreciate some of the board coming and speaking and reading to our students. It's always fun to have you in the building. And we're keeping a close eye on our incoming kindergarten numbers. We can't believe that we are already preparing for that. So, selfish plug for our curriculum proposals coming up, we need a kindergarten teacher. Numbers are growing. Any questions?
Thank you. Sending to middle school, Mrs. Rucker.
All right, Renee Rucker, Bennington Middle School. February was a super busy month with conferences and a lot of great things, but what we want to highlight tonight is one of our favorite things to do at the middle school or home middle schools, and that's celebrate our kids. We did have our Learn, Grow, Lead recipients. If you don't know what that is, it's really where our teachers nominate kids, not necessarily based upon academics, but upon like leadership, resiliency, just being a good, basically just a good human. And we want to celebrate all of those kids. We also had our academic achievement celebration on March 1st. Both buildings celebrated. Bennington Middle School South had 350 students, and Bennington Middle School had 217 students, and those were students that had all A's and B's. We are so proud of our kids. What questions do you have for me? Thank you. Dr. Lamberty with the high school report.
Good evening, Greg Lamberty, Bennington High School Principal. As you can see, a number of things went on from our last meeting, a lot of championships where sports has come to a conclusion. I just wanted to take a few seconds, point out a few folks specifically, and also thank some individuals that have put in some extra time. First off, you'll see in the second bullet, Kayla Ritson, who's about 3 rows behind us. He is here present tonight, probably just by chance, but he is a 4-time state champion for Bennington wrestling program, one of just a handful of kids to accomplish that in the long and storied history of not only Bennington wrestling, but the state of Nebraska. So congratulations to Kale and all of his teammates.
Dr. Lamberty, if we could, round of applause.
Number 2, wanted to thank a BPS transportation bus driver, Mr. Darren Cobb, who has volunteered his time the past 3.5 months. Darren finishes his regular route and then has taken his bus down to the freshman parking lot, which is east of the stadium, patiently waits 15 minutes for about 40-some kids to board the bus, and then he's been transporting them up to the building so they didn't have to walk in fantastic weather from December through February. Another member, on the second page of my reports, want to thank Mr. Grinvalds for his organization, patience, and coordination with the Intramural Basketball Association. So that program has grown immensely, and I think part of it's because kids enjoy just coming up and playing hoops, and another part of it is Chris actively recruits kids, puts teams together for them, makes sure that they're involved, and continues to grow that program. So thanks to Mr. Grinvalds. And then lastly, our athletic trainer, Mrs. Elizabeth LaBombard. This March is National Athletic Trainer Appreciation Month, and Liz puts in a number of hours, a lot of times flying solo, to make sure that our athletes are healthy and ready to compete. And then one final shameless plug for the spring musical, a big week for the Fine Arts Department at the high school. One performance on Friday, one performance Saturday, and then twin matinee on Sunday afternoon. This year's musical is Chicago, the kids version. Questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, student services, Mrs. Fagan. Whitney Fagan, Director of Student Services. So on this first page here, I try to kind of break down how we determine when we request for FTE or additional special education teachers. This breaks it down by category. I don't have on there the total number, but we are up to 745 students birthed at age 21 that do have an IEP or an IFSP in Bennington. As some of you were on the curriculum committee earlier, I know you spoke about a lot of these requests, and so as we work through April, we kind of revamp these numbers, see what we need, if we need to move around some of the requests we have, and then we come back to you, just to keep you in the loop of where we put staff at. On the next page is my HAL update, and there's lots of great things happening in our HAL department. One thing I want to note is that Mrs. Missy DeHart, one of our HAL teachers, went and reached out to KETV and their 7 Can Help Kids Cash for Schools grant. It was awarded $2,500 for our 3D printer program. So we're really excited to do that a little more. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Dr. Hoagie?
Good evening, Dee Hovey, Assistant Superintendent. I have your CIA report tonight. I'd like to highlight for you the assessment that's coming up. We are entering state testing season. The testing window actually opens April 3rd and will run through the first week in May. This is for our students in grades 3 through 8, and they will take ELA tests, they will take a math test, And then our 5th and 8th graders also take science test. Coming up in March, all of our 11th graders will participate in the ACT, which is a state test for high school students. And this is the 7th year that that's been written into the state law, that all juniors will take that test. So we'll be doing that on the morning of March 21st. We appreciate the flexibility. We've moved our early dismissal from a Wednesday to Tuesday that week to accommodate the testing that's happening at the high school and being able to let those students go home following that. So that way high school students who have to pick up elementary students, we coordinated everybody's schedule was our goal in that one. So that's where we're at on assessment. The 10th graders also will participate in that day and the pre-ACT as well. So that outlines what's coming up on state testing, a really important part to measure our progress, and the success of our district is measured through this way. So any questions I might answer for you? Thank you.
Well, as alluded to in public forum, we have some information on option enrollment students. It was reported in February we had 52 students opt out. We looked and found 4 of those were no longer residents. So by the definition in state statute, do not count as option enrollment students. What we can see is 120 of the 148 did not attend Bennington Public Schools. And there is no box, there is no checklist, there is nothing on the option enrollment form that says that a person has to define or gives a reason why they're not attending one school or another. So this would be informal information related to why somebody is not going to a school or not. Some of that informal information is picked up by phone, as the enrollment secretary or the person in charge of enrollment does have contact with them if they fill out a form, don't know how to do it, don't know where to go in the state, or don't know where to go on our website to pick up that form. So as we see, 28 of the students of the 148 did attend Bennington Public Schools at some point in time. As you can look, of the 28, you can see that 2 were here for less than 1 semester, all the way down to 3 were here for all of their kindergarten through 10th grade year, or 11 years, if you will. There is some anecdotal, some informal information that goes along with that. We tried to add that as best we could. For example, Millard North has an international baccalaureate program. There may be other places where there's advanced placement courses we do not have. Some are looking for activities or athletics that are higher competition than Class B. And as you can see, many different reasons for that. On the other side, there are 90 students who opt into Bennington. And most of those are under a 2-year grandfather clause. That is by state statute. If they attend school in Bennington or their resident school, they can remain or stay in that school and move out of the district. That is an automatic. That is not something the board can deny or approve. And we look at that. Some of those were part of the learning community open enrollment, which is no longer in state statute. But for the most part, they are the ones that opt in with a grandfather clause. So that is the information that we have. Majority of that formal information. The other is informal with conversations that we have with people. Is there any questions about the option enrollment report?
What does that form look like to opt out? How much detail is there?
The form is really about address and students, what age they are, what grade they would be coming into, And so there is a section for the resident school, a section for the option in school, and it's just a process of steps 1 through 4, Ms. McCoy, basically, where you'll meet again next week to deny or accept. There's another place where a school will say full because of capacity, or accept. And so really the form goes to the state. A lot of that is to follow basically net option funding, so that the state can then allow that funding to follow that student one way or the other. We do not receive any net option funding because we have more students opting out than opting in. So the word net is true. If you have more coming in, you get money from the state. Thank you. Jody, clarification. It is the state of Nebraska form. It's not generated by school district.
And I might just highlight how this came about. So we've been having questions from community members and trying to find a good way to get information back to folks if they've had concerns or good questions. And so we've asked Dr. Hawk to provide 2 updates on 2 common topics. And we thought the easiest place to do this would be from Dr. Hawk's superintendent notes or administrative report. And that way, if other folks have the same question, then we can get the information out. And this would also be on the report side so that folks could get those attachments if they're interested. And so that is the purpose, just trying to get more communication out to the community from the board perspective. And so obviously if there are other questions, we can address those as well, but this was kind of a starting point per se.
Correct.
And just real quick, so before we get off that, so for clarification, we are not currently doing any independent or our own internal survey whatsoever, correct?
That is correct.
And then have we looked into just doing an informal, whether it be an email or some type of form, and just see how many people will respond back?
We have not looked into that. That's certainly something that the board could request.
Okay. I think it's something we should look at. Hopefully they would reply back, but if we have 28 students or even 120 that aren't coming at all, they're doing that for a reason, whether it be private school or otherwise.
One clarification, does not include homeschool or private school. Option enrollment is a category to itself.
Oh, it is.
Private school and homeschooling are 2 separate categories.
Okay.
So this is only with option students.
So then the 120 that have never gone to Bennington, they're just going to another public school district, correct?
Typically, option students is correct, yes,
Okay.
by definition.
Perfect, thank you.
Does not include private, parochial, or homeschool.
So if they choose that option, they wouldn't show up in this list?
They would not.
So I think too, when you're looking at the number, you're going, there's over 100 kids who don't want to be here. That's going, why is that, right? So it was helpful for me to take a point that you said that some of those folks have never even been in the district. So it's not like they came here and did not have a good experience and are leaving. It's for whatever reason, they don't even begin here. And that doesn't mean there isn't an underlying issue or problem. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that data point was helpful to me. And so I appreciate you sharing that data point because that was something that I didn't understand before tonight. So I appreciate that.
Correct, yes.
Any other questions before we go to the second topic?
Second topic is compensation, total compensation for certificate staff. First and foremost, I don't think anybody is saying that teachers are paid what they should be paid. We agree with the public related to compensation for teachers. We wish that we have the resources to pay more. However, as we look at this, we see what we are paying with life schools. And as we look at that, we look at the total compensation. Those things that are part of teacher package, which includes not only the pay, but the benefits that go along with that. Most commonly, that is teacher retirement and health insurance. Health, dental, and life insurance and long-term disability are the insurance categories. When you look at that and you look at an array study comparison, i.e. like schools in size and location, you see that Bennington has has been ranked at the top in this current environment. And so with total compensation included, Bennington has one of the best, if not the best, contract when looking at these like schools. So the other thing that was noted is that there is a difference depending on where you set in that salary scale. So if you're a person, and I apologize, these are 3 small boxes, but if you're a person at step 5 with no education beyond a bachelor's degree and you have single insurance, you could see an increase of about 2.87 for next year. That means that you're not moving horizontally or vertically. You're not moving because of education, you're not moving because of experience. If you're in the middle, you see that you could get about a 5.25 increase because you're going to be moving down because of experience. And you have a different insurance. This one has a couple insurance with no children. The cost for that employee is roughly $92,000. That would be for next year. If you're at the bottom of the scale, you have more education and you have years experience, and you move over one column because of more education, you can see that you're close to a $6,000 increase. Now keep in mind, when somebody receives family insurance, right, they're going to receive an increase in benefits of approximately $18,000 from this year to next year. If you're looking at single insurance, and this is on the health side and dental side only, you're seeing a little over a $600 increase. So there is a big difference between family and single. There is a big difference depending on where you land on that scale. But commonly, in the middle of that is a cost for teacher compensation of somewhere around $91,000 to $93,000. So we want to point that out, and again, Bennington has always placed a high value on that classroom. This scale that we see with the array is for this year. Doesn't include next year, it doesn't include that last year. But I can say with some confidence, we've been pretty close to midpoint to the top most years because of the value this district places on that classroom. Any questions that I can answer related to this point?
Yeah, so I do have a question. So I'm learning about this as we go, and I'm not directly involved with the negotiation of the contract, but the way I understand this is for everyone else as well, is that this is a pretty large scale with multiple columns. So we've got the right out of school all the way down to the most, I guess, the most experienced teacher, right? It kind of goes across and down, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Right, so it is a vast array, and I think, you know, being able to see this and seeing that if we take all of our certificated staff and average them, we have a total comp plan of 91,000. I think that's fairly impressive. And I think too, for the public to understand and to help me understand is a lot of us always like to look at our base salary, but then forget if we're getting all this other stuff too. And I had no idea that in the school districts that all of these healthcare and benefits packages and all that we pay for that in Bennington, which isn't, when you go to the public, is very rare to get that, maybe even half. So I appreciate that, you know, sharing that with us.
Any
other comments? Feedback? Hope this was helpful, especially to the newer board members, just trying to condense the information out of you guys and try to get up to speed quickly since January. So I think that's it for questions on this topic. Did you have any other notes from your report this evening, Dr. Hoff?
Nothing of significance, if you will.
Good. So as far as committee reports,
We have 2 committees, one on building and finance, which will cover really both committees in an agenda item later related to curriculum and personnel proposals.
I think we can cover them at that point if everyone else is okay with that.
Okay.
Technology report from Ms. Druckmann.
We'll look at that later.
We had a piece fall out, so.
It doesn't look like it's on my phone.
That would be a lot with the technology report.
So, welcome, thank you guys. I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. It's always good to talk to you guys. Again, my name is Rob Eckman, Coordinator of District Technology. I always like to highlight my team because I am not one who does this by myself. It takes many of us to do this job. We do have one new team member that I'd like to point out, Ms. Leanne Hilliard. She's joined us as our new database administrator. She came from Miller Public Schools. She was a secretary there for a number of years, so we're very happy to have her on our team. I always try and throw a quote in there. This one, technology is not just a tool. It can give learners a voice that they may not have had before. One of the things we focus on is how the technology integrates in the classroom, and I hope throughout my reports, technology cannot drive, right? It all comes back to the curriculum has to drive how we're using the technology and how we're integrating it. That has always been my focus, and as long as I'm here, that will continue to be my focus. So, a couple of recent projects. It's been a busy year since last time we talked. We just got our new server infrastructure in. This is part of our yearly budget. So it was time for our core servers, the things that handle authentication and DHCP and DNS. It's not very fancy, but it's what makes the back end of the system work. We just got those new machines in. We were able to cut down from 2 to 3, which was able to save us some money, but still giving us the same capacities as tech has got better. I'm very happy to say the fiber from the current athletic stadium over to the softball field is complete. So the fiber is there, so we will definitely be ready for next spring as we get ready for that. So the internet and everything else, it will have the same capacity for both locations. We just got done doing an upgrade for low voltage. Low voltage is your Ethernet wires, most of which runs through the ceilings and you never see, but as Bennington Elementary is one of the only buildings that doesn't meet our current wireless standard that we have in every other building. So we just completed installing all the new cables for that. Hopefully by the next time I come back and talk to you, if shipments get any better, I'll be telling you that we also have the new Wi-Fi. All of this was done through E-rate last year. So as an E-rate building, it's a federal funding program where we get about 40% reimbursement for that. So both the low voltage and the wireless upgrade that we're doing in Bennington Elementary came through part of that. Next one on the list here, firewall. As we look to continue to grow with the addition of the 2 new buildings, we did have to install a new firewall this year. The firewall is kind of the portal that lets everybody out. If you think of it, on-ramp going on to Dodge. We had a limitation that one would only handle 1 gig. As we continue to add more schools, we've had to be able to grow. This one was priced and set up so that we can grow into it for about the next 10 years. It'll go up to 10 gigs. Currently, we allow 2 gigs through our pipeline there. That's what we have contracted through Network Nebraska. So we got rid of kind of the final hurdle, if you would, to allow us to continue to grow. So that was a good thing. And then finally, Content Keeper, that's our internet filter. So whether the kids are here or at home, all of our Sweet Chromebooks are filtered the exact same way. Our kids actually come back through us even when they go home, so that we're filtered the exact same. So keeping that content relevant to the age groups, it was time in our renewal path to upgrade that as well. So that has also been done. We're getting ready. One of the things that most of the districts in the metro have is they tunnel everybody back to them. With the new one, we will be able to go to what's known as a hybrid model. So even if we lose connection here, the kids at home won't lose connection. It'll basically go out to the cloud. So that was one of the advantages. Our cost, we were able to get in on a statewide buy on this. So our cost is actually the same as what we had been. We just doubled our capacity. So as we continue forward. So here's an example. You can see when they constructed the softball complex, they did run all the conduit for us. So we're able to get that bid put out and get that installed so everything is there. It actually runs from the current press box, goes through, and then jumps over to the softball complex. Upcoming projects. As I had mentioned, we will be redoing the wireless at Bennington Elementary. The reason why we're doing this, our current standard says that every room gets an access point. Access point, if you look above us, that's the nice little white satellites that sit up there on the ceiling. Whenever somebody's on wireless, they all connect back to that one. Currently, every other building we have has one access point for every classroom. So you consider us with a one-on-one, roughly 20 to 25 kids per classroom. Each one of those is able to handle that. Bennington Elementary has one access point for every 2 to 3 classrooms right now. So there are some areas where we see some degradation. So to make sure that we have the same thing in all of our buildings, this is just the year that they were slated for upgrade. The next two that I'm going to talk about are two pieces that are coming out of, these were done as partial funding from the state CIO office. So one of the things that has been a big push right now in the tech world is security, cybersecurity, to be specific. We've seen more and more attacks on metro schools. Council Bluffs had one this year, Des Moines Public had one, Bellevue had one last year, Custodian had one a couple years ago, Millard had one. It's becoming more and more common. So as we continue to try and prevent all of this, we're going to be starting 2 new initiatives. We'll be doing pilot programs of them yet this year, with hopeful full implementation by August of next year. So the first one's called Proofpoint. Proofpoint is a phishing campaign simulation, if you would. All of us have seen those lovely emails that we get that says, you know, I need you to click on this link, give me your password for this, or so-and-so wants to make a direct deposit. This is a way of helping to train our staff on those. So what they'll do is they'll send out campaigns. They're controlled from us. We can see the click rates that come through them. Anyone who can click, we can give them some remediation, some training, point out things. It kind of goes through a guided point. Here's one of the things you might have wanted to look at. Look over here for, you know, this came from outside your domain. It had a warning on it, things of that nature to try and help. Because we know that the number one thing that gets us in trouble is somebody clicks the wrong thing. So while our people don't have admin, which helps prevent a lot of it, there are still things that come through. So really trying to help protect our staff and the district as we continue to move forward. The next piece, again, this was a state purchase. So for the next 3 years on both Proofpoint and this one, the state is kicking in. There's a small part upfront that we pay, and it kind of increases over the next 3 years to help us get on scale with that. So we're going to be looking at multi-factor authentication. Most of us already do this for our bank and many other websites, but this will incorporate our computers, our email systems, and a lot of our online things where we have any kind of personal identifiable information. That's really what we're trying to do. So this will allow, so if somebody were to get a hold of your username or password and try and log into your email, again, you get a prompt on your phone that says, is this you, yes or no? Before they can access it, you have to give them permission. So one of those things that we're continuing to try and always increase that cyber awareness, because that's just the world we live in today. A little bit, each year we have to purchase a number of technology pieces across the district. We do have a set budget for this each year that we stay within. So for next year, we'll be looking at 4 new carts as we add a few new classrooms and some of those curriculum proposals that you guys heard about multiple times throughout the evening tonight. We'll have an additional 100 touchscreens for devices K2. I apologize, it says K1 up there, but it should say K2. And this is just to add for some increase in that kindergarten size that we're seeing coming in and replace a handful that need to be replaced just due to cycle and life cycle on those. Typically, we're a little higher on the Chromebooks in K-12. Typically, we're closer to that 900 to 1,000 range. But this year, we did get a very large grant last year from the federal government. It was called ECF. So we were able to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,100 new devices throughout the district last year because of that. Not as many need to be replaced, and we actually have just a handful that have not been deployed yet. So typically, we replace grade 6 and grade 9 every single year. And then the ones from 8 and 12 kind of cycle back down to the elementary. But as we know, with 300 to 400 new students each year, we always have to buy some additional ones down there because those bottom classes tend to be bigger than our top classes. So with the numbers right now, I'm pretty confident we're gonna be in that 450, 475 range, depending on where all the kindergarten registration and new student registration starts. As well, we are in year 2 of a conversion from Windows laptops over to Mac laptops. So we'll have roughly 60 to 65 new Mac laptops that we'll do. We have a handful that are slated to be replaced this year just due to age, and then we'll also start any new staff members that come into the district on Mac, so we don't put them on one machine and switch them 1 year later. It just tends to be a little bit easier on them. One of the other pieces I was focused on, because the technology is great, but how you use it in the classroom is just as important. So Mackenzie White is our tech integration specialist here. I always try to highlight a few of the things that we've been doing with teachers. So here you'll see a lot of the work she's done, some of the work I've done as we continue to do. One new thing we did do this year, every new teacher to Bennington has to do one-to-one tech consultants with Mackenzie or myself. Right now, we've hit 97% of those new teachers already throughout the year. They have to do it twice. So we're at 97% completion. We're just finishing up with a handful of the last ones. And this is really just to integrate them and help them figure out how the technology works, how they can use it in their curriculum. So that's one of the pieces we feel is very important. We do newsletters for both staff and administrators. I'm sure you guys see the Tech Bites one that comes out from Mackenzie, because I believe you guys are included on that as well. But it's everything from that to doing new pilot programs. We did some work with both middle schools in 7th and 8th grade with amplified benchmarks, integrating that information into Otis. We've done special education for universal design, and we do projects with certain grade levels. So this year we did a 4th grade research project where Mackenzie actually went in and integrated co-taught with those teachers in the classroom and helped walk them through in a creative model writing program. And then one other piece that we'll have coming up, this was new last year, but we are continuing it. So we partnered with OPS. We're doing a refresh of 21st century skills. Last year we hosted at Bennington. This year OPS is actually hosting right down the road on 156 at their new high school. We'll have a keynote speaker there, and essentially this is during the summertime. Staff get paid for curriculum hours for attending, but it's a way of learning from other teachers how this tech is used in the classroom and trying to share that. So we always try to share those focuses, and then we'll have our boot camp presentations and all the other curriculum stuff that we do for tie-ins throughout the summer. So, questions?
Can you take 1 minute and explain the E-rate? Oh, sorry.
Absolutely.
That was helpful for me as a board member. I know we have new folks up here, but I'm just impressed with your ability to utilize the funding so well. And if we plan accordingly and we plan ahead, we get a lot more bang for our buck. And so that would be one item I think maybe people don't know about.
So E-rate is a federal program that allows districts to recoup for category 1 and category 2. I'll explain what that means. It's based on the amount of free and reduced students that you have in your district. Bennington qualifies at a 40% rate. Some districts get 60, some get 80, some get 100%, depending on the number of free and reduced you have. But each year, category 1 is your connections out to the outside world. So if you would, your connection to the internet, right? So we have one line that goes from here to there. The other one is what's known as category 2. So that's all of your connections between your buildings, that's your switches. It's not the really fancy stuff, it's the APs and the switches, it's all the things that make it work really well. So we've been able to use that funding over the last 4 years that I've been here. We upgraded from 1 gig to 10 gig between our buildings when we did our redundant loop to connect all our buildings and get them off wireless point to point. That was all done through E-rate. We get a 5-year rolling sum that we get to spend. They do a match, so we have to be able to provide the 60% in order for the other 40% to qualify. But it's really intended to help make sure that every student has access to good quality internet throughout the district. The other part was ECF. That was a separate part that came out of the COVID funding relief bills that were passed. That was kind of a one-time pot that the federal government had put together. I think in that one, we were close to $980,000 that we got in funding for that particular fund.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Christy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you first as a parent for the content keeper and keeping that up to date. And then also just had a question about the duo. Did the students do the 2-factor authentication as well, or is that staff and?
So right now, we will be starting with staff. Two-factor is difficult when you start to look at students because of the fact that kindergartners, right, I can't require you to really have a cell phone, that wouldn't be a fair ask. There's ways to do some other things there, but for this initial rollout, we're focusing directly on our staff members, because those are the ones, our students are protected so well because we already sandbox them, if you would. Our students get received emails outside of about 15 vendors, and I'm talking things like ACT, College Board, I think Amplify can send directly to them. There's such a small portion that can actually send to our students that they're protected through that avenue. This is really for the teachers or the people who have administrative passwords or have access to request payment information, things of that nature. So it'll really focus on that. The content keeper won't go away. We're actually, as part of E-rate, you're required to meet a federal regulation called CIPA, it's the Child Internet Protection Act. So we are mandated because of the fact that we use E-rate to provide that filtering for students.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Is this a pleasure here?
Okay, perfect. I think we'll have the lobbyist report next. Oh, there you are. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time from Lincoln. I know it's a busy time of year for the Nebraska legislature. And we have new faces up here, so
Absolutely. That's
glad to meet you.
the new faces. My name is Julia Plucker. I have the firm Kelly Plucker. We are registered lobbyists in the state of Nebraska. We are fortunate enough and proud to represent Bennington Public Schools and have for a number of years, as well as other clients down in Lincoln at the legislature. I will just give a very general overview of where we're at in the legislative session and maybe highlight a few bills. I send out a very unwieldy bills of interest list frequently to Dr. Hogg, and it's, I don't even know how many pages it is now, but I won't go through every bill, but please know that that's available at your disposal for update at any time. So we just finished today, day 43 of the legislative session. Lots of talk about the slowdown that's happening at the session. That is true. I think the minority thinks that their only remedy on some issues is to slow down the process, and they're of course filibustering many of the bills. We've gotten through a few of them in the last 3 or 4 weeks, but not as many as you typically would see in a legislative session. Priority bills are becoming more and more important. They're obviously important every year. I feel like I say the same thing every time I come up here. You've got to have a priority on your bill, but this year especially, it is extremely important. The speaker has said we will only get to priority bills after the priority bill deadline, which is tomorrow. And we might not even get through all of those. Of course, every speaker gets 1 priority bill, every committee gets 2, and then the speaker gets 25. So the speaker priority bill request deadline was last week, and the senators and the committees will designate their priority bills by tomorrow at adjournment, which is around 12 or 12:15. So we should know for the rest of the session which bills we'll be focusing on. So right now, it's the part of the session where we're having public hearings in the afternoon, and the morning is floor debate. So from about 9 to noon, we do floor debate, and then 1:30 to, God knows when, anytime between 5 and midnight, we have public hearings. So that will continue until March 24th, and then we have a couple recess days, and when we come back, we'll be in full day debate from 9 until typically 5, but the speaker has said if we're going to continue this slow pace, then he's going to keep us for late nights every basically night that we can, Monday through Thursday. So expect a lot of late nights, frustrating sessions. That's just par for the course, and we have to get things done. The budget in a long session is due by the 70th day, which is I think May 1st or 2nd. So really, we'll see bills try to move up until May 2nd, and then the budget, has in the past has taken in the last 20 years. I can't believe I've been doing it that long. I've been doing this. Sometimes the budget takes 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. We have more money than we've ever had before. So the budget process, I think, should be easier. I don't think it will be. I think more money, more problems, more people wanting, more asks, more requests. So I think it will take typically a little longer than it would typically take to get all of that money budgeted. So that's just general session. If you have any questions about that, or, you know, the tone or the tenor, we have, of course, 16 new senators, so they're finding their way. And, you know, it's just, you know, everybody, new people on committees, new committee chairs, new speaker, new governor. So a lot of things done differently this year, but it'll all work out in the end once we get to day 90. Real quick, the governor has a package of bills that affect public education. Those are LB 583, 589, and 681. 583 is Senator Sanders' bill that provides for foundation aid and then increases special education. LB 681 is creating this new education future fund, which they're putting $1 billion in. Again, I said we have a lot of money, so we're now, instead of talking millions, we're now talking billions, which is crazy. And then 589, which caps school revenue growth. That is one that we are watching closely. Dr. Hawk has talked to a number of senators down there, offering his expertise on growing school like Bennington, offering an amendment, which Senator DeBoer is going to carry for Bennington and the other new growing schools that typically have to build new schools. But that's the package we're watching closely. It seemed more smooth sailing, I would say, at introduction, and now it's becoming more, there's more friction as it goes through. And again, people are like, well, wait a minute, if you put $1 billion there, that's less than, you know, for my project. So it'll be interesting to watch how all of that shakes out as it gets to the floor. Another priority bill that will be going through is LB 385 by Senator Linehan. It addresses teacher recruitment and retention. It offers $5,000 grants based on a tiered system, whether you're a first-year teacher, second-year teacher, third-year teacher. LB 805 is a priority bill by Senator Von Gillner. It affects schools. It offers youth activity organizations to provide services, information, and activities in the school. That's somewhat problematic for some public schools because, of course, that's taking up instruction time, which is already at a premium. And then a lot of talk about LB 753, which is the Opportunity Scholarships Grant that passed first round. That Senator Linehan has been trying to do that for a number of years and did get it past general file, but there's 2 more rounds to go. So we don't know where that's going to end up either. I can stop there. I don't want to talk too long. Does anybody have any questions for me? Or again, I'm always available by email or call or through Dr. Hawk to get any updates on any bills.
I just want to mention, thank you for your time, particularly concerned about the governor's package and the impact on the financial part of that package to our district. How are folks receiving the message that Bennington is perhaps a unique place with our growth? And are the senators receiving that well? And do you think, are you concerned that bill is, or those bills are going to move forward? So do we need to prepare as if that will be happening?
I don't know. I cannot predict that they will go forward, particularly in the shape that they're in right now. I do find it, Bennington is an outlier, I think. The message is well received. I don't think we've had any senator meetings, even with Senator Breezy, the introducer, who doesn't walk away from the meeting going, oh, Bennington's an outlier. We got to do something about Bennington. So I think it's not what they want to hear because they want a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's just not going to work, especially for a really fast-growing and expanding district. So I think the more we tell our story, which we're doing, the better chance we have of getting it fixed. And I feel good about that happening at this point. Dr. Hawk, do you feel good?
No, I would agree. It's always good to have a story. Our story is well known in terms of rapid growth. And once you provide the numbers, then they can see the calculations that a cap of 9% with a growth of 12% does not mathematically work for a growing district.
Has Gretna been at the table? I know they're opening new buildings, but I have to be particularly concerned about some of those
They have,
packages.
they have, yeah, they were down a couple of
They
weeks
have-
ago.
They have been a partner with a lot of the conversations we have.
Yeah, and like I said, every senator, you know, you go in and they think, oh, we've got the answer, this is the answer, it's the package, and then we tell the story and they shake their heads and they go, it doesn't work for them. So, you know, who else doesn't it work for? And we're like, well, all we know is it doesn't work for us and probably a couple other districts. So they seem receptive to fixing that.
And is there proposed solution only the amendment, changing it from and to or is there another option for us to offer a solution?
There are two amendments. One is the and or.
Okay.
So the or, which was the original package from the governor, said you got 3% growth, just a normal growth. Or you can take 40% of your student growth. In the last few years, we have been below the double digits, anywhere from 7 to 9. So you can see 40% of that would be somewhere between that 3 and 4%. Or the board could vote, depending on the size of the district, in our case, a 5%. So 3, 4, or 5. With a 7% growth in student population, that being last year, that doesn't fit. With opening 2 new buildings, we had a 14% growth in the budget. That truly doesn't fit. So changing it to and adds all those together, but still does not add up. So we've asked for a 2-year growth factor once we open buildings. And that 40% can be 100% of your student growth. Those numbers do add up in a new school setting.
Thank you. Somebody else have questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next report is our spotlight report. Dr. Hoagie. Doing double duty, I guess.
I am part of a team on this presentation tonight. You'll be hearing from several of the departments at the high school as well, but I'm going to kick us off with some of the guiding information about career and technical ed. This has been a really large discussion area across our district as we've done some preliminary planning for future plans of schools in our district. And so we believe it's a good time to bring it to you tonight. So Nebraska Department of Ed has guiding principles for career and technical ed. The mission is to really lead and support preparation of all Nebraskans for learning, earning, and living. And through career and technical ed, we can take kids from that general education to having some understanding of what careers are possible, what's out there, and giving them those basic steps for their future. And the state has really set up some guiding principles that when we design a program, it needs to be equitable, relevant, innovative, and coordinated with the other programs in school. This is the model of career education in Nebraska. You'll see that in the center is your core academics. That's your reading, math, science, social studies. And then as we move out from there, you will see that there are 6 career fields. And that is wrapped around that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those are the STEM areas that you hear about. Sometimes they'll call it STEAM when we add the fine arts to that as well. And then surrounding all of that, you will see career paths that come from that career field. Within each of those career paths, there are lots of different programs of study that a school can offer. So we are in Bennington, there are those 6 career fields. Out of the 6 career fields, in 5 of those fields, we offer courses at the current time that are being covered and taught right now in Bennington High School. This program actually was born back in 1984 as part of a federal program called the Carl D. Perkins Act. And we are in the 5th rendition of that came out in 2018. With each new signing by the federal government, the state needs to build a new plan. In the last plan that was built in 2020, that lasts until 2024, you'll see there are 8 areas of emphasis in the state of Nebraska for Perkins funding. So any school district that wants to receive part of these federal funds needs to have a focus in these 8 areas as we're planning programs. So Perkins Requirements is a federal program, and there are 2 parts to Perkins funds. One is a formula that every child in Nebraska gets X amount of dollars or gets counted toward X amount of dollars. It also is based on needs within a district, so your social economics, free and reduced lunch, also the makeup of our school district of students who have special education. They also consider students diversity in your community as well. So lots of elements go into that calculation for our base funding. A school district must add up to at least $15,000 to be able to stand on their own for programming. We don't hit that number at this time. And so we have to be part of a consortium of schools to receive Perkins funding. There's the second part of the Perkins grant is competitive grants. And any school district in Nebraska can write a competitive grant. We have done that in our district. We wrote a competitive grant to be able to add our CNC engraver and train our teachers. We had to send our teachers to Utah to be trained and implement that program into our schools. So we have been fortunate to receive that, but any district can apply for that up to $100,000. In order to get any of these federal funds, you must stay on top of what they call your revision plan. And revision is a study of needs of career and technical ed within your school district, within Douglas County, within Nebraska. And so there's lots of different things that we have done to study those. When we wrote our first revision plan, we had about a dozen business people at the table, people in a wide variety of businesses across our area that came and talked about the future of the Bennington area, of Western Douglas County, and things that they hope for in students that come out of high school. How can we help the businesses as we graduate students? In addition to doing this plan and updating it each year or 2, we have to offer at least 1 program to study. And out of those 6 career fields, we have to offer a progression of 3 courses. As the departments come up and talk to you a little bit more detail, they'll share that with you. But you offer an introductory course, a medium level course, and then a capstone in the same area so that kids really have a great experience in a specialty area. And then we also have to have at least 1 student organization that fits into these career and technical areas. Bennington hosts 2 of those. One is FPLA and one is Skills USA. This gives you an idea of some of the research that we have to do as part of our revision grant. We have to look at the Occupational Outlook Handbook. What are the up and coming careers out there? What are areas that are important to our students as they head out and graduate that we might be able to introduce them to? And then one of the other areas that we're required to look at is those top 10 H3 occupations. H3 means it's high demand, high pay, and high need. So those are areas that we look at especially. And so whether it's truck drivers or registered nurses, managers, carpenters, accountants, we offer programs in many of these areas for our students to be introduced to those areas so that hopefully a spark comes and they'll pursue that once they finish high school. A little bit more about Perkins funding. As I said, you have to be eligible for at least $15,000 to be on your own for this grant. We are part of the ESU 3 consortium with, that adds 9 other districts with us, and you'll see the other districts in the region that we are partners with. This year, our consortium qualified for $65,000. We lose 4% for managing that through ESU 3, and so the 10 schools are dividing $63,000. So that gave Bennington just over $6,000 to do something with. And the 3 areas you see there are where we can spend it. We can do it on staff development to improve our teachers in these departments. We can use it to purchase equipment that we use in the departments, but it also has to tie back to those 8 priority areas for the state. So Bennington's CTE programs. We have 3 departments that this really covers. The business department, the family and consumer science department, and the skilled and technical science. It used to be shop or industrial arts, they're now skilled and technical science. You'll see the number of students that are enrolled in those courses. We have just 1,000 students, or just over 1,000 students enrolled in high school. So you'll see that we've got students enrolled in multiple areas and multiple courses. So these are high demand areas in for across our grade levels. Under the business department, which you'll see we have the most students enrolled in, part of that reason is because 2 of the courses that we teach through the business department are state requirements for graduation. The first is personal finance, and Bennington has had this in place for about a dozen years at least right now. We've required our students to complete a course, a semester course in personal finance. Over the years, our curriculum committee has had some input on the emphasis on when we offer that course and to which group of students. We started in really focusing on our freshmen. Get it in, get that graduation requirement done. But their level of understanding of finance and what faces them when they graduate it's 2 different worlds. So we have really worked with our guidance department and backed this up to really where juniors and seniors are taking that finance course so that they have an idea when we bring the bank in and talk about financing a car. You have to file income taxes right now. You've got a part-time job. We have the banker come in and talk about checking and savings and borrowing money. So our teachers are really trying to make it real life situations for those students who are heading beyond school soon. Information technology is the other required course. It is newly required in the state of Nebraska, but they're changing the name of it now. We've required it so that everybody has some exposure to computers because you can't do anything any day without a computer, it seems like. Whether it's your smartphone in your hand or the device that's on the desk in front of you. So the state is changing this and updating it from just information-based, how to use the tools, to more of a computer science flavor. And so our instructors are currently working to rewrite that course. And so we don't have to add a graduation requirement, we just have to revise the course itself. So you see right now we have 300 students enrolled in that course this school year. It is a semester, so we teach it both first semester and second semester. Personal finance is a semester course. In fact, you'll see most of our courses in the elective area are semester courses. That's what the state recommends so that you can build the progression of 3 courses and still not tie up so much of the time for students who have to meet their other graduation requirements. So most courses are a semester. There are a few that are year-long that you'll hear about when the departments talk to you. So we put the highest enrollments up for you to see the top 2 classes beyond those graduation requirements as well. So we have lots of students taking lots of courses, very popular as well. So I'm going to turn this over now to our business department to fill you in on what's actually happening in our department. Mr. Grinwald? I will stay right here.
I'm Chris Grimble, part of the business department, and my staff members, Tracy Cox, she's newly with us, she's a part-time. She's a retired teacher that came back from Miller North, and she has all kinds of experience. Shelley Taverdi came from Marion, but she was at Lincoln Southwest for over 20 years, so she took over our personal finance curriculum, and she does exactly what Dr. Hody says. She brings in real-life people, just like Mrs. Garnet does, so the kids get a perspective. And to talk about personal finance, we are more than happy that we finally moved it from 14-year-olds to 16-year-olds, and 17-year-olds are actually paying bills and have jobs, so we don't have to make up stuff for that. And then Mr. Wright is basically our computer guy, the AP computer, the web design, the digital design, so that's our 4 people that's in our department. Like she was talking about, we have our intro classes, intro to business, which covers anything we want, econ. We can talk about personal finance, we can talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about branding, we talk about marketing, we talk about job interviews, job research. Personal finance, that's more Mrs. Taverdi, and that is a junior senior class now. There's 4 sections of that. Marketing is on the back end. We have intro to business in the fall, and then marketing takes place in the spring. We run kind of a Shark Tank like style business plan at the end of the year, where we have the Chamber of Commerce come in and they kind of give feedback to the kids. They're really, really positive, because sometimes they get cut into a 14-year-old kid's idea of what a good business plan is, but they're actually very helpful and good feedback when it comes to marketing. Then Mr. Wright gets those kids ready for digital design. And then, like Dr. Hogan said, the info tech. And then it just moves along like the Department of Education that Lincoln wants us to. You want your intro, your intermediate, and then your capstone. And the 5 capstones we have currently are accounting, digital design, entrepreneurship, finance, and then infotech, or information technology. So that's the breakdown of the classes. Intro to business, I teach 3 sections with Ms. Cox. So we have over 150 kids. That was in the fall. Personal finance, strictly taught by Ms. Taverdi, so she has control of that class. She has business law too. And then Coach Wright has the digital design and the programming. And then I share sections with him in the infotech 1. And then the marketing just flips. The infotech switches off with help, correct? And we got to find a way to try and move the accounting from 8th period up to 2nd period, just so we can get more accounting. Because the feedback I got from Mrs. Cox, who was at Miller North Forever, and Mrs. Taverdi, who was at Lincoln Southwest, those kids who want to move on and take a business, I want a business major, first class you're going to take is accounting. And currently, if you look at that, we only have 7 kids taking that class, because it's only given on the 8th period. So I know you got to be flexible coming up here. So just to try and find a way, unless we can use it in intro to business to teach a little bit more about accounting, just so the kids aren't completely lost when it comes to that freshman year of school. Okay, and then the AP computer science, hopefully we can get that. And the entrepreneurship was a year-long class introduced this year. We decided that the best off if we could just cut it into a semester so we can get more kids participating. So that's a breakdown. So those were the new classes last year. Obviously, we're going to cut into entrepreneurship and make it a semester class. The web design, which we got dual credit now with Metro, is a good thing. 9 of those 14 classes are taught there. And if you go to the bottom right, that infotech, that was a big thing. Oh, I don't want to skip over Mr. Bird. She is unbelievable with FBLA. She brings so much energy, and she's so thorough about everything. So she is a great FBLA advisor. Future classes, computer science, advanced marketing, something we talk about, and then management and leadership would be a no-brainer if we, get more kids. So the infotech, that came down from the unicameral. It's going to be required that you touch on those 5 things: information technology, computer science, computer literacy, digital citizenship, and then education technology. So we're in the process of seeing, okay, we already teach this, we could add this. So, and I talked to the middle schools, what they do with their kids in 6th grade, they do a lot of typing on edu-typing, and that's a Hexter. So the 7th graders, then they get Microsoft Office. So they get Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. They do some basic formulas on that. And then 8th grade, they have options for programming or coding or Photoshop and all that stuff. So the kids that we get as freshmen, which Infotech will be, or whatever they're going to call it now, if they went to Bennington or Bennington South Middle School, they're going to have an understanding of what we're talking about. They're not going to be lost. Because then I did pull some kids from other districts, and we went to the lab once a week, and I'm lost right now. So the education they're getting at in the elementaries and the middle schools fits perfect to what that new class is gonna look like.
Thanks, Chris.
Hello, my name is Mickey Dunning. I think I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you, so thanks for being here. I'm not sure how you guys process this much information in this many hours. My students would be way long gone by now, so thanks for sticking with me. We'll go ahead and move to the next slide. Family and consumer science has really evolved over time. We are no longer just cooking and cleaning and homemakers. We've really kind of immersed everybody involved. And I'll just touch base on those 4 bullet points: lead better lives, be work and career ready, build strong families, make meaningful contributions to our communities. So that's what we are really focused on. I have been in education for 12 years, the last 4 years here in Bennington, and family and consumer science has really even evolved in Bennington over the last 4 years. We now offer 9 different classes for students to choose from. And just like Dr. Hoagie was mentioning, we do have pathways. The very first class that a student is going to take is called Family and Consumer Science. And you're going to change topics about every 2 weeks. So that goes from cooking, healthy relationships, etc. We go, again, all beyond. The next class that the students have the option to take is Foods 1, and then that leads into cultural foods. So we get that kind of multicultural diversity in there as well, which is really nice for the students. The next tier, adult living, it is, again, well-rounded. How do I be the most successful adult that I can be? Thinking of my mental health, how do I communicate with others, how to have proper relationships, etc., budgeting, you name it. And then that goes into childcare. And so this week, for students in the high school, they will be bringing out the computerized babies, and the students will have to maneuver around school as acting as a parent. So not only are they learning about how to be a parent, it's jobs in childcare, and that's a huge demand right now. Recently, we added hospitality and tourism, and that capstone class is entrepreneurship. You'll notice that it is in blue. Entrepreneurship is taught by the business courses. Interior design is another added course this year. Again, kind of speaks for itself of what that all entails. Intro to education is one class that is near and dear to my heart. It is now a dual enrolled class, so we have added that to the high school. So they have to call me Professor Guinan during that class. No, I'm kidding, I don't mean to do that. But it's been so nice and an honor to get that going for Bennington, because that is something that, in my opinion, draws students to a school district, is being able to have those dual enrolled and AP courses. And then the last course I'll touch base on is Foundations of Healthcare. We took a poll, not last year, the year prior, of students in Bennington and said, what do you want for classes? Do you want textiles and design? Do you want foods? What do you want? And one of the largest desires was healthcare. And so I have a full class again this semester. It's offered both fall and spring semester. We bring in for every single class numerous speakers. A really cool speaker today was a Bennington alum. I was with her 4 years ago when she got accepted into nursing school. And today she came back and spoke to the students about what college is like and how that all works and do's and don'ts and what Bennington did great. Some spotlights for family and consumer science. We take students on field trips. The upcoming field trip is the VA hospital for the students of Foundations of Healthcare. Not only are they going to be able to job shadow in their specific desired field, they're also going to be certified in Stop the Bleed, so they're super excited about that. And then in the family and consumer science course, they do a sewing project as well. So Joanne's Fabric Store has been phenomenal and lets us take all the students, about 50 of them, and purchase fabric, etc. And then with the introduction to education, we've been taking the students to elementary and middle school. We'll be going to middle schools as well, hopefully, once we get those connections. Mrs. O'Connor was phenomenal last semester in my first initial class, and she really guided us through and let us come in her school, Stratford Park. Large projects, again, I already touched on the computerized baby, sewing pillowcase, buying a home, a car, budgeting, communication opportunities. I didn't add in there, one of the students' favorites is planning a wedding in adult living. And then community guest speakers, as Mr. Grimholz mentioned, about every week we have a speaker come in and explain to the students their job and their connection to the family consumer science field, and no matter what job you have, why family consumer science is so important in their education. Unfortunately, with everything, you have some challenges. The challenge right now is three-tiered, I guess. We are having to turn students away. We did add a family consumer science teacher last year, so there's now 2 of us, Ms. Moore and then myself. The original classroom, most of you have been in it, I think a couple of you still need to tour, but you have a classroom and then you have a kitchen. That kitchen only holds 16 students, so that really caps us at what we are able to offer with Bennington in family consumer science in the foods realm. Since adding a second teacher, we did complete a makeshift classroom by the help of Dr. Bloomkamp. He was so wonderful to work with, and he got electrical into a second classroom, and now we can have all of our sewing machines, et cetera. But bottom line, both classrooms are pretty small to be able to really expand in our family consumer science program. So that is something that we're constantly working on, and both classrooms unfortunately are on the opposite end of the school. There's storage on one end, so one of us is always kind of running back and forth, but we definitely make do. Questions for me? I know that was a lot of information, so I have a little bedtime reading for you, and then I'll let you go. Thank you.
While Nikki passes out the information to you, I'm going to invite Kyle up, and Mr. Monty is going to talk about our skill and technical science department.
All right. I'm Mr. Monty. I teach at the high school. I teach along with Mr. Tom Schumacher, our other STS teacher. The term STS has been changed. Our name has changed multiple times. As Hoagie said, we used to be called industrial arts, before that just shop. We kind of call ourselves shop teacher. I believe I come with kind of a unique perspective because I am a Bennington High School alumni. I actually learned from my old shop teacher, Larry Clauser, the 30-year veteran in this district. And so I've seen both sides of the coin now, where I've been teaching for 2 years. And I am a product of the Bennington Shop program. We'll go over classes that we offer. First, we are a department of 2. We offer a lot of drafting. Schumacher does all the drafting and engineering side, and I take on the carpentry and construction side, woodworking and construction side. He teaches introduction to drafting, architectural drafting, and engineering drafting and drafting technologies. Kind of our drafting courses, architectural courses there. He also teaches his principles of engineering class when they kind of get up to that level, those high-level engineering classes. Home systems, it used to be called home maintenance when I was there. I fixed toilet chains and switched light bulbs, things like that. He added introduction to agriculture. That's something under our STS umbrella that is new. Basically, this year we just got approved for Agriculture 2, and that has been kind of Schumacher's baby as he's developed that course, so on and so forth. I teach Introduction to the Built Environment. When I was there, it was called Woods 1. We have a much fancier title as we've changed that course to align with Intro to STS, that state code. To kind of teach more broader shop skills, kind of a catch-all shop 101 class. And that's kind of what that is. Then I teach woodworking principles and woodworking manufacturing are my intermediate level classes, where in principles we teach more traditional hand tool woodworking, and in manufacturing we look more towards the future with our CNC mill and manufacturing technologies that are coming out. Finally, my capstone class that I teach is building construction, and that is long-standing tradition at Bennington. It's, I take a bunch of kids out. One's here today, Noah Miller, where we go out in the van every day. We go in the community and we build things for them, whether it's decks, we finish basements, sheds. We built, the shed by the elementary school. And we build things at scale. It's the only block period in the school. It's 2 periods long. Just if you accommodate that time, you need more time on those types of projects. So, those classes we teach are at a very introductory level. We teach at a very exposure level. We don't have any sort of, deep level too many shop classes here. And a lot of that is space and teacher restraints. There's only 2 of us. If you don't know, shop teachers have the oldest median age in Nebraska. I'm a very rare person being this young in this profession, but there's 67 open shop teacher positions. 22 shops are without a home for any sort of teachers. They'll probably close this year. As we look towards the new high school potential STS programs, there were 2 spaces kind of carved out in those building plans I saw. There wasn't really any decisions as far as what to put in them. Engines and mechanics, we don't offer anything as far as auto mechanics. Small engine programs are very common across the state of Nebraska, or full mechanic programs with engine lifts, things like that. The original designs had bay doors, so that would be an option going forward. We offer no mechatronics or robotics, so any sort of robotics course, BattleBots. I student taught at BC West, which has the best in the state as far as robotics goes. We do have a robotics club run by Mr. Deardoff, God bless him, but as far as any curriculum on that level, no. Construction on a meaningful level, and I put that in there because construction is per capita by far the biggest field in Nebraska, Omaha specifically, as far as how many companies we have, how many we employ, growth. There's more electricians working in Nebraska than there are electricians from Nebraska. And we only teach those high-level skills to six of those kids on that building construction level. Otherwise, it's very, very basic. This is a drill press. This is a chop saw. We have nothing in the field of energy. That is becoming, I believe, Papillion, Bellevue. I've been looking at those areas as far as energy generation, nuclear, things like that. We have no welding or metalworking program, whether that is forging or welding. That could be an option for the new high school. And transportation, that can also include auto mechanics, but as you saw in that H3 job report, truck driving is the #1 needed skill in this country right now, and also heavy machinery operation. 1 in 4 jobs are blue collar. And that percentage needed in our workforce is growing, and those numbers are growing as well. If you look at the first year pay out of trade school versus university, for the first time ever in 2023, trade school first year graduates eclipsed the earnings of those 4-year college graduates. The game isn't changing. And as far as what we do, we're a department of 2. So we really have 2 main student organizations. One's kind of a fun one, the Outdoor Club, which is where we bring in a bunch of speakers. We talk about just fishing, hunting seasons. We bring in some speakers. We've had Greg Wagner in before, and then we have speakers all the time. There is a speaker just about every week in the SDS department because we love hearing from actual plumbers and carpenters and electricians and mechanics and all that. Skills USA is our CTSO. That is our kind of not more serious organization, but that organization that is preparing kids for the next level, building resumes, getting them in front of trade professionals, having them compete at a high school level in the field of carpentry, welding, and those types of programs at the Skills USA State meet in the spring. And that's kind of what we have. We have our full 4 pillars up there, and that is kind of what we uphold. We have 3 Bennington High School students are enrolled in welding. That is something we just don't offer here with our space. As far as challenges to CTE, the biggest challenge is going to be hiring personnel, class sizes, and really just the structure we have. If Bennington High School was, that shop was kind of small when we first put it in Class C, and it has not gotten any bigger, so to speak. And class sizes have grown by 25% this year, at least mine have. And we are busting at the seams as far as space goes. And that is, it's really affecting what the kids can do because they can't do the high level projects. My first year at Bennington, I brought out the guitar I made senior year. I was showing them, like, hey, I made this guitar senior year. Well, that was only possible because I had class, it was me and 5 other people in my class. Now I'm teaching the same course but in a semester format with 20 kids. So I had to stop showing off my guitar because I can't guarantee that they're going to have that time, space, and materials to do their own personal projects. Which is not anyone's fault at all. It's just a reality of growing district, growing numbers in the building. You know, just is what it is. We have nowhere to expand. There's, limited class sizes, limited things. We have a lot of interest. If you look at the enrollment numbers, a lot of people sign up for my area and all the CTE areas, but we just have limited teachers and seats. Our course offerings are very introductory, which is awesome. It's good for exposure, but those higher level skills, hey, how do I, plumb a toilet? We can only offer those to small groups of students because of, personnel. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Just to wrap up for you, as we look at those challenges, one of the other things that we're running into with our CTE courses, you heard the teachers talk about that they might be at the ends of the day. Because of the crowding in the high school currently, we're just about at capacity. And so we have adjusted our required number of periods that students have to be in school. So juniors and seniors are considered full-time, but they are taking 4 periods. And so many students now are opting out, which releases some of the pressure in the building for us to manage the numbers of students in the building at any one time. But it does open the door for fewer students to take some of these wonderful electives that offer so many opportunities as well. So lots of challenges all the way around, but some exciting things going on with our teachers. So any questions that I can tap any of them to answer, that I can answer for you.
I was just curious about how you make the MCC work for like welding. Do you have to wait and do that in the senior year when you have extra classes, or how does that work?
Typically, yes, when you've got space within your schedule, that's the easiest way to be able to do that, but they have to travel to MCC to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're moving on to unfinished business.
Yes, my apologies. We had on the agenda last month the discussion of the agenda. And so at this point in time, there is a discussion. We looked at some information related to a request for the Pledge of Allegiance to be added to the agenda. As we looked at that, we see in the metro area, we have 10 different schools, 11 County Bennington. 8 of those 10 do the Pledge of Allegiance during the board meeting. Most of those are right after the call meeting to order or right after the pledge of, or the pledge form. So I offer that information to the board. We would go out and purchase 2 flags, state of Nebraska and the United States flag, to be in the room permanently. There is no motion needed. There's nothing in state statute that says one or the other. If you want to give that information to the executive board, then we will make arrangements to make those changes in the agenda if needed.
I think when this topic was brought up, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable with that, and if we had feedback, it's a change in policy or practice, maybe more practice than policy. Does anybody have strong feelings one way or the other? No objection. All right. Okay.
I brought it up, so yes.
That's why I skipped over you. All right, I think we'll go ahead and do that then. I don't see any reaction either way, so go ahead and proceed with stating the Pledge of Allegiance. And let's just do it right after we call the meeting to order, and then we can regroup and do public forum. I don't want to get distracted after that. Usually a lot of thoughts after public forum, so. Does that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay with
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We'll make that change at the next regular meeting.
great.
Okay. We have a decision on the 2024-25 school calendar. As you can see in brief, starts August 9th with all staff. That would be the normal Friday that starts everything. We have in-service days in there. And parent-teacher conferences at the normal time or what they have been in the past. Thanksgiving break is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're looking at the winter break and everything that goes with that. We have snow days built in. We'd like to show you the calendar and try to keep it all on one page. We'll leave it at this size. Again, starting on a Friday, the Memorial Day, October and February parent-teacher conferences. This will allow for a full spring break. The first day of that would be March 31st, all the way through April 4th, excuse me. And then we have the last day of school on the 23rd. We make a recommendation based on the information that we've gathered from staff that the board approved this calendar for 24-25.
Looks like we're still getting out before Memorial Day, or the students are getting out before Memorial Day, I know that one's big item too.
That is correct.
Any other comments or feedback from the board? There is a motion.
I move to approve the 2024-25 school calendar with a starting date of August 14th, 2024, which includes 176 student days and 186 contracted days.
I second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the calendar?
And just for clarification, we're not starting school in
I
October.
know, that's not.
It was
isn't it?
August.
All right, Jody, call the roll.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Now, the next item on the agenda is the approval of a contract for the new superintendent. By statute, the contract is not posted until approved by the board. The board has 2 days once the approval is made. So the district will work very diligently to get the contract signed and then posted with all the necessary requirements that go along with it on the student transparency or the Superintendent Transparency Act.
Thank you. There's a motion and then we'll have discussion.
I move that the Board of Education of the school district hereby approves the superintendent contract by and between the school district as an employer and Dr. Aaron Ploss, the superintendent, in the form on file with official school district records and as presented at this meeting, or with such changes as are deemed necessary and in the best interest of the school district and approved by the board president, and further delegates authority to and authorizes and directs the president of the Board of Education to sign, execute, and deliver the superintendent contract, to cause the superintendent contract and related schedules to be published pursuant to the act, and to take or cause to be taken all other action necessary or appropriate to carry the superintendent contract to effect.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there discussion? I have a couple of items. Mr. Dreesen was not able to be here this evening, but did want me to read a statement to the public with respect to his vote on this matter because he is not able to be here this evening. So his statement says, "My apologies for not being in attendance this evening, but I would like everyone to know that I fully back the board with the hiring of Superintendent Dr. Aaron Ploss. Thank you to all committees that helped in the process, and congratulations to Dr. Ploss." Is there any other commentary? I did speak with Dr. Ploss over the weekend and several days last week, and he is not here this evening, otherwise he would love to be here, but he actually has his own board meeting today. So he just wanted me to make sure that the community knew that if he could be here, he would be. He's very excited about joining the team. We've had some very good and healthy discussions, so I'm pleased about that. And thank you to Dr. Hoagie and Jody McCoy and Stacy Hahn and Lynn and Rob and everybody, Shannon, the folks in the district office for really putting in the extra hours, because I know that process was a lot for you guys to coordinate and plan. So special thanks to you all. And thanks to the board. I know especially the new board members jumping in and tackling that was huge. So I really appreciate everybody's working together and moving that process forward. So I don't have anything else. Does anybody else want to comment? Okay, Jody, will you call the roll?
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next agenda item is the approval of a lease agreement for agricultural producer to farm the ground on 180th Military Road. As you can see, we received 3 bids. All of those were formally published. All of those received in the same format as produced. We do have the highest one of a rent of $27,500.29. That will go to Aaron Schmidt, and that contract is there for approval for the board.
I move that the Board of Education of the school district hereby approves the farm lease and security agreement for the district-owned property generally located at North 180th Street and Military Road, by and between the school district as landlord and Aaron Schmidt as tenant, and who has submitted the proposal for the highest rental amount, such lease in the form on file with the official school district records and as presented at this meeting, or with such changes as are deemed necessary and in the best interest of the school district, and approved by the superintendent of schools, and further delegates authority to and authorizes and directs the president, board of education, superintendent of schools, or other designee for the school district to sign, execute, and deliver the lease, to determine whether to exercise the option to renew or terminate the lease, and to take or cause to be taken all other action necessary or appropriate to manage and administer the lease during the term of the agreement. Is there any discussion?
Okay.
Okay, all right, second, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Is there any feedback? All right, Jody, call the roll.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes. Motion passes. Next item related to the curriculum committee. I know they met right before this meeting, so
This encapsulates 2 committees, one the building and finance, and number 2, the curriculum committee. As we look at forecasts for revenue, we see that we have really 3 areas, and we've discussed this many times. 1 is property tax, 2 is state aid, and 3 is other actual receipts, which is a combination of many things. As we look at state aid, that is naturally going to be less because we lose the money for opening of 2 new schools. So with that, coupled with property taxes and other actual receipts, we're looking at about $1.4 million in new revenue. Now, that is a conservative number based on an 8% increase in assessed valuation. Normally, we have about a 12.5% increase in assessed valuation. That is a coupling of new homes, which is pretty close to last year, 400 versus 350. And the county assessor increasing the assessed valuation of other homes. We have done a random check of different subdivisions, and we see the county assessor has increased assessed valuation in a majority of our subdivisions. Therefore, we anticipate that we're going to be very close to that 12.5%, even though the 1.4 is a conservative figure at 8% assessed valuation. Knowing that every percentage increase is a little bit above $220,000 in new revenue, we see that a 4.5% increase in assessed valuation from what we're estimating would generate close to $1 million more in revenue. As we look at the Building and Finance Committee's personnel and curriculum proposals, we see that we have approximately $4.5 million in proposals laying on the table. We also looked at what was talked about earlier, the normal increases in teacher, support staff, and administrative, normal increases in employee raises. That's going to generate about 1.6 to 1.7 million of that new growth. Therefore, with anticipated revenues, and we will not know that for another 3 weeks to a month, we are asking that we have a safety net of using cash reserve at this point in time until we get those expected revenues coming up in the next month. The Building and Finance Committee has gone over that. They have suggested we do so. We went with the curriculum committee this evening. With that knowledge, they have some proposals ready to go. As you see in the third paragraph there's a certain line item for those. We want to make sure that we know what we're looking at. So we've done that in just a little bit better format. And so we have several new teachers. Keep in mind, earlier report says the average teacher compensation is somewhere between $91,000 and $92,000. So $1 million doesn't go very far. It's approximately 11 teachers there, give or take. And so we're looking here at generating around that much as we move forward. This will still leave over $2 million in needs or in curriculum and personnel proposals still to be left on the table. So looking at normal increases in salary, normal increases in expenses, and additions, we last year, opening new buildings, had about 47 new teachers or new positions. We're looking at less than half of that this year with revenue expected moving forward. Does anybody on the Building and Finance Committee want to speak, or anybody on the Curriculum Committee want to speak to what I just outlined for the board?
I'm happy to speak on behalf of the Building and Finance, but excuse me, Jeremy, please jump in. And I think Tim would concur with the discussion. It was a unanimous recommendation to the administration to pull $1 million from the cash reserves as a temporary matter, knowing that we were very concerned in our estimate of evaluation increases, and what we've done to spot check that has helped us get comfortable, I think, with that. And we understand the need to hire people, right? So the time frame for getting people on board for this fall is critical that we move and we get those decisions made. So it was a unanimous approval from the Building and Finance to allow the curriculum committee to utilize those funds. And as everybody remembers, we have one pot, right? And so what we're doing with salary raises and increases over here, unfortunately, we're taking away from the other committee and the proposals. And so we're trying to find that happy balance, so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It is much needed, and as we talked about in our committee too, that, you know, hopefully this is just, sorry.
Thank you very much.
This is just the beginning. We're hoping that we can fund more from all the proposals, because we appreciate all those coming into us, but thank you for that. We also wanted to make note, do you have any more that you want to talk about the classes?
Just know that we would love to be able to do it all unanimously. We all would love to be able to fund the things that the people in our district say they need and want. We know that those are needs, and we appreciate you all working together to narrow them down to a place that is functional for us at this time. And we know that the buildings communicate and coordinate, and that effort is greatly appreciated by us.
Yeah. And I would say too, I know we've had some people come to our public forum, and I appreciate you guys doing that. We do hear you. I know we've had some requests for specifically wrestling coaches, but in those proposals, we do have those requests that are there. So I appreciate that. We are listening, and thank goodness the staff has also seen the need and put that out there as well. But again, right now we're at about a little over a $2 million deficit, where we have to find funds. And really looking at our core values and our mission here to educate students, you know, that's going to take the priority, and hopefully we can find a way to make it all work. So.
And we did just want to make note on the, for years, we've had the elementary Spanish program, and we've talked to administration, and we're recommending as a committee that we do away with that program. It was a hard decision, but we're just seeing right now that the instructional we want to reallocate that time, because we're just not meeting some of the goals that we want to meet through that Spanish program. So we're going to do away with that and reallocate some of those minutes back to our core classes.
Can you remind me how much time are we spending on Spanish?
That may be a fair question for you all, but 25 minutes.
25
per
minutes per
week.
week.
Okay.
And that was just K through
K-5.
K5. K.
And we will be reaching out to families and letting them know more about that.
So we have a motion before the board to approve the Curriculum Americanisms Committee's recommendation from this evening so that we can move forward and budget for these teaching positions.
I move to accept the recommendations by the Curriculum and Americanism Committee and Administration for the 2023-24 curriculum and personnel modifications and additions as outlined in the March 13th, 2023 Curriculum and Americanism Committee report and pending the 2023-24 budget approval. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Steve. Is there any further discussion?
I just had a question. The conceptual math course, is that what Dr. Lamberty spoke to, I think, several meetings ago to help students coming in who's maybe not up to a high school level math?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, more specifically to the algebra, like the pre-algebra type.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, Jody, call roll.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara.
Yes. Motion passes. All right, the next item before us is a motion on the table for going into executive session to discuss support staff and administrative compensation. We do expect action from this meeting, or excuse me, from the executive session this evening. So folks that are interested are welcome to stick around. We do need a motion to go into executive session.
I motion the board go into executive closed session at 7:51 PM for the purpose of a strategy session with respect to employee negotiations as an executive session is clearly necessary for protection of the public interest.
Second,
Second.
Jody, call the roll.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
All right, we'll go into executive session and we'll be back.
For those at home, we will pause the camera, but the link will stay live until they come out of executive session, at which point we will enter that.
I'm out.
Did you come get your chair?
was like.
I'm sorry, I could not reach it.
Trying to reset it, it's like a challenge for the tech guys, so you know.
Rob, are we good over there? All right, so we are back in open session. It is 8:25 PM. There is a motion on the floor related to classified staff. I move to approve the 2022-24 salary and benefit proposal for support staff as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there any discussion? All right, Jody, call the roll.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes. All right, I think that concludes our business for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Kara, second.
Kara, I thank you.
You want to call the roll for good measure? I know it's not required, but.
I sure can. Kara,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
thank you. 8:27.
Time and date of the next meeting.
Time and date of the next meeting, we have 2 meetings coming up for everybody's benefit. March 20th at 5 PM related to option enrollment. It will be a brief meeting, that should be the only item on the agenda. The next regularly scheduled meeting is April 10th at 6 PM in the district office. So we're meeting on the 20th at 5, April 10th at 6.
Fine.
All right, we'll see everybody in a couple weeks, or a week, gosh, sorry,
1 week.
time is flying.
Thank you.